There's only 1 week left in the regular season of the college football season, so as we get ready to enter rivalry week, here's how my top 25 looks. Staying at number 1 is Georgia, who dominated number 18 Tennessee 38-10. Tennessee jumped out to a quick lead, but the Bulldogs outscored them 38-3 the rest of the game. Carson Beck was great once again as he threw for 300 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. Meanwhile, switching over to the defensive side of the ball, and Georgia was dominant once again. This was one of the more dominant performances we've seen from Georgia all season on defense. If you take out that 75-yard run by Tennessee to start the game, the Vols really didn't do anything on offense the rest of the way. Overall for the game, they had only 13 first downs, and if you take out that rush, they had only 200 yards of total offense for 99% of the game. Georgia is really starting to play their best ball at the right time as they look unbeatable right now. Another very easy win for Ohio State as they took down Minnesota 37-3. Travion Henderson led the way on offense as he rushed for 150 yards with 2 rushing scores. Meanwhile, Kyle McCord threw for over 200 yards with 2 passing touchdowns. I know Minnesota doesn't necessarily have a great offense by any means, but they did nothing against this Ohio State defense. For the game, the Gophers had only 10 first downs and 160 yards of total offense. Like with Georgia, Ohio State is looking like one of the more complete teams in all of college football. Early on, it was looking like this game was going to be a blowout, but Maryland hung in there and really gave Michigan a run for their money. The Wolverines escaped with a 7-point victory. Thank goodness for Blake Corum as he rushed for 100 yards with 2 rushing scores. Also, thank goodness for Michigan's defense as they forced 3 huge turnovers, which is what really helped them win this game. Maryland almost had the same amount of first downs and total yards, but Michigan got the big turnovers, and again, Blake Corum, when you have the ball on the goal line, give it to him and you'll be just fine. Oregon dominated my Sun Devils 49-13. I thought ASU might make this a little bit interesting, but boy was I wrong. Bo Nix continues to add to his Heisman campaign as he threw for over 400 yards with 6 passing touchdowns. And I'm pretty sure all of those numbers came in the first half as well. The way the Ducks have been playing over the last month, they also look like they're unbeatable as well. Washington was on upset watch as they took down number 11 Oregon State 22-20. The Huskies didn't score at all in the second half as they were outscored by the Beavers 10-0, but the Husky defense stepped up and really won the game for them. I mean, this was a 1-score game pretty much the entire fourth quarter, but Washington was able to limit Oregon State on offense. It was a quiet day for Michael Penix Jr. as he threw for only 160 yards with 2 passing touchdowns. He also ran in a touchdown as well. Oregon State has one of the better defenses in all of college football, so I wasn't surprised that Washington struggled, but I was surprised that Oregon State hung around for as long as they did. This would have been a detrimental loss for the Huskies, but they're 11-0 and they locked up a spot in the Pac-12 title game. Alabama picked up the easy win as they had a scrimmage against Chattanooga. They won 66-10. Jalen Milroe threw for 200 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. Meanwhile, on the ground, the Tide rushed for over 300 yards with 5 combined rushing scores. This wasn't a 3-point victory, but Iowa State really made this one close with Texas. The Longhorns ended up winning by 10 points, but it was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. Quinn Ewers threw for just under 300 yards with 2 touchdowns, while CJ Baxter ran for over 115 yards. Texas keeps on winning these games, but it's been a while since they played a complete game in which they looked really good. I mean, if you look back at their schedule, the last time we saw a great game from Texas was probably against BYU 4 weeks ago. And overall, when you stretch out their schedule even more, they've only looked really solid once in their last 6 games. But they still only have 1 loss, and they're likely going to be playing in the Big 12 title game. I know Florida State is still undefeated, and they just picked up a 45-point victory, but losing Jordan Travis for the season really hurts their playoff chances. Now, I know they're still probably going to be ranked inside the top 4 or 5, but without Jordan Travis, I just don't think Florida State is a top 5 to 6 team in the country. I was already talking about my doubts with them the last couple of weeks, even with the healthy Jordan Travis. Now that they're missing him, I just don't know what we can expect from Florida State moving forward. Missouri won a close one over Florida as they needed a game-winning field goal to give them a 2-point victory. Brady Cook had a great game as he threw for over 330 yards with 2 total touchdowns. Cody Schrader continues to be one of the best running backs in all of college football as he rushed for 150 yards with a rushing score. This was a fun back and forth game, and Missouri nearly blew it at the end as they blew a 9-point fourth quarter lead. But like I mentioned, Brady Cook led them down the field on the final drive and a game-winning field goal gave Missouri the massive win. Speaking of a close game, Louisville escaped Miami with a 7-point victory. The Hurricanes completed the Hail Mary as time expired, but fell just a couple yards short. This was a back and forth game that saw things tied up with 5 minutes to go, but a late touchdown from Kevin Coleman put the Cardinals ahead. Jack Plummer threw for over 300 yards and had 3 passing touchdowns in one of his best games of the entire season. With the victory over Miami, the Cardinals officially punched their ticket to the ACC title game. They're going to take on Florida State, and without Jordan Travis, there's a solid chance that the Cardinals are going to be able to pull off the victory in that game. And who knows, maybe their playoff hopes will still be alive. Before we get to the rest of my rankings, I'd like to share with you guys how you can win money and make the college football season even more exciting. I've partnered with Underdog Fantasy to bring you this amazing deal. If you download the Underdog Fantasy app and use promo code Harris, they'll match your first deposit up to $500. Yep, they're giving you up to $500 of free money. I've had a lot of success this season with college football and the NFL, and you can do the exact same with Underdog Fantasy. So make sure to use promo code Harris for a 100% deposit match up to $500. You can also sign up using the link in my description as well. LSU took down Georgia State 56-14. Jaden Daniels did it all once again as his insane season continues. He threw for over 400 yards with 6 passing touchdowns. He also led the team with 100 yards on the ground and 2 rushing scores. I mean, I know it came against Georgia State, but the fact that he had over 500 yards of total offense and 8 total touchdowns, that's absolutely insane. Oregon State lost in a close one to Washington as they fell at home by only 2 points. The Beavers did all they could, but they couldn't get the go-ahead score when it mattered most late in the fourth quarter. DJ Uiagalelei didn't have a great day as he threw for only 164 yards while throwing 2 interceptions with no touchdowns. If it wasn't for Damian Martinez and his 120 yards on the ground and 2 scores, this Beavers offense really wouldn't have done anything for the entire game. But they were still in it at the very end with the top 5 team, but like I said, they came just short. With the loss, they're officially out of contention to play in the Pac-12 title game. Oklahoma won a very close game over BYU, winning by 7 points. They lost Dylan Gabriel at the half with a head injury, so they turned to true freshman Jackson Arnold. The reason Oklahoma was able to win this game was because of all the miscues from BYU. The Sooners had a 100-yard pick 6 to give them the lead in the third quarter. The Cougars also had 2 more turnovers that Oklahoma was able to capitalize on. But a win is still a win, and Oklahoma is still alive to play in the Big 12 title game. This game was looking a little interesting entering the half as Ole Miss led UL Monroe 7-3, but the Rebels outscored them 28-0 in the second half, and it didn't look all that bad. Jackson Dart was solid for the Rebels as he threw for over 300 yards with 3 passing scores. Ole Miss won't be playing in the SEC title game, but they still have a chance to finish the regular season with 10 wins and then 11 wins with a bowl victory. Arizona's dream season continues as they took down number 22 Utah 42-18. Noah Fafita continues to impress as he threw for 250 yards with 2 passing touchdowns. Meanwhile on the ground, Jonah Coleman rushed for 100 yards and had a rushing score as well. For the Wildcats, that now marks 5 consecutive victories, including 4 victories over top 25 opponents. They've been one of the more surprising teams in all of college football this season, especially in the Pac-12. Although they're going to need a few things to go their way, they still have a chance of playing in the Pac-12 title game. Alright, I'll move up Penn State as they took down Rutgers 27-6. Now, Rutgers is a pretty good team, and Penn State dominated the final 3 quarters of this one. Drew Aller is still an awful quarterback as he completed fewer than 50% of his passes for only 80 yards. But luckily for Penn State, they have a great rushing game as they ran for over 230 yards with 3 rushing scores. They also have a fantastic defense as they held Rutgers to only about 200 yards and 6 total points. I still think there are a lot of teams that are better than Penn State, but again, this defense is legit and you gotta show them some credit. Tulane picked up their 9th consecutive victory as they took down Florida Atlantic 24-8. Michael Pratt did it all for the Green Wave as he threw for 250 yards and had 3 passing touchdowns. After losing earlier in the season to Ole Miss, Tulane has bounced back pretty nicely, and it looks like they're going to be fighting for a potential spot in a New Year's Six bowl game. Liberty kept their dream season alive as they took down UMass 49-25, moving to 11-0 on the season. Caden Salter continues to be one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football this season. He threw for over 200 yards with 2 passing touchdowns while leading the team with 120 yards and 2 rushing scores. It's only their first season in Conference USA, and Liberty has already locked up a spot in their conference title game. Kansas State is still alive in the Big 12 title discussion as they went on the road and took down number 25 Kansas 31-27. This was a fun back and forth contest until Kansas State took the lead with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. After that, they were able to hold Kansas in check and they won the game by 4. Will Howard threw for 160 yards and had 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown as well. Meanwhile, on the ground, DJ Giddens led the team with over 100 yards and a rushing score. Like I mentioned earlier, Kansas State is still alive in the Big 12 title discussion. After losing in their last game to Clemson, Notre Dame responded with a 45-7 victory over Wake Forest. Sam Hartman had one of his best games of the season as he threw for just under 300 yards with 4 passing touchdowns. Audric Estime ran for over 100 yards and added a touchdown on the ground as well. It's been a rough season for Notre Dame, especially over the last month and a half, but they have a chance to finish the regular season 9-3 next week. Somehow, someway, Iowa continues to find ways to win in typical Iowa fashion. They defeated Illinois 15-13. Now, it was looking like Illinois was going to pull off the upset, but a 30-yard run from Caleb Johnson with 4 minutes left gave the Hawkeyes the 2-point lead. Every game they play is ugly, and you might want to look away, but the Hawkeyes are 9-2 on the season, and they're going to be playing in the Big Ten title game this year. Oklahoma State got back in the win column with a 43-30 victory over Houston. Alan Bowman threw for 350 yards and had 2 passing touchdowns. Meanwhile, on the ground, Ollie Gordon had another great day, rushing for 160 yards with 3 rushing scores. If it wasn't for last weekend's loss to UCF, Oklahoma State would likely be playing in the Big 12 title game. They're still in the discussion as they're 6-2 in conference play, but they're tied with 2 other teams as well. Unfortunately, James Madison's dream season came to an end as they fell by 3 points to Appalachian State. It looks like James Madison was going to pull off the comeback late as they scored a touchdown with a minute left to tie things up. They took the lead in overtime, but a touchdown from Appalachian State gave them the victory. Still, they're 10-1 on the season, and James Madison has had quite the year. Don't look now, but here comes SMU. After starting the season 2-2, the Mustangs have now won 7 consecutive games. They picked up an impressive victory on the road at Memphis this weekend, winning 38-34. Preston Stone threw for just under 300 yards with 2 passing touchdowns. He also added a touchdown on the ground as well. There have been a lot of good teams in the American Conference this season, including SMU, Tulane, and UTSA, as all 3 teams are 7-0 in conference play. So we're going to see what happens next week, but there's a chance SMU is going to be playing in the American title game. We'll wrap things up with UNLV as they knocked off Air Force 31-27. UNLV has been one of the more surprising and impressive teams in all of college football this season. Since losing in week 2 to Michigan, they've gone 8-1. Jaden Mayava threw for over 340 yards and had 2 passing touchdowns. He also led the team with 40 yards on the ground as well. There are a lot of group of 5 teams that have been really good this season in college football, and a lot of them have been really slept on. UNLV is probably at the top considering where they've been the last couple of years, and the fact that they're likely going to be playing in the Mountain West title game this season. Well, that wraps it up for my top 25. Was there a team I had ranked too high or ranked too low, or a team that didn't crack my top 25 that should have been in here? Whoever it is, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I post college football videos almost every day, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.